Welcome to the MowerMafia podcast, sponsored by LKN Small Engine. My name is Jared Washington, and this is a new podcast that is going to be directed towards the world of outdoor power equipment. I figured we'd get started here by just introducing myself a little bit, giving you a little bit about myself and my background. I want to talk a little bit about kind of what my intent is for this podcast, and then I'm going to introduce you to my very special co-host that's sitting across the table from me. So, as you heard in the intro, LKN Small Engine is actually the company that sponsors this podcast, and just so happens that I'm the guy that owns that business. I started the business several years ago, I guess about 8 years ago now, as a little bit of a hobby, working out of my garage for something extra to do on the weekends. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to grow this business over the years into something that has become a sizable venture that contributes to our community and is fortunately able to employ a small hand. And, through that experience, I think I've learned some very valuable lessons. And those are some lessons that hopefully we're going to be able to share and talk about a little bit during this podcast. So speaking of that, like I said, this podcast is going to really focus on the outdoor power equipment world because that's probably what I know more about than anything else at this moment. I think that in addition to speaking just about the outdoor power equipment world, we're going to cover things that relate to how to be a good customer, that relate to how to be a good business owner, some of the ins and outs of the business challenges that we face on a daily basis. And I'm hoping to also have the opportunity to discuss the ins and outs of some actual equipment with you. You can talk a little bit about how to properly maintain and service your equipment. At some point down the road here, we might be fortunate enough to have some guests to talk about some new equipment coming out and discuss some features and benefits of some of the different equipment on the market. So I have some pretty high hopes for this podcast as we continue to grow and get into it. And hopefully everybody here is going to stick around with us and, help us grow this thing into something pretty cool. So I mentioned earlier also that I've got sitting across the table from me here a pretty cool dude. He's a guy that I've known for a while. He's been here almost since the beginning, and has helped me in my venture here to grow and become better, both as a business owner as well as in the service department that we operate here. His name is Jeff. So Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, hi there, Jared. It's really great to be here, to be a part of Season 1, Episode 1 of the Mower Mafia podcast. This is going to be great. One thing I think you might have forgot to mention about where we want to get to in this podcast is hopefully at some point we'll be able to take listener questions and answer them in our podcast. I think that might be a nice little twist, and that could get pretty interesting too.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to know about my background? That's going to be a pretty long story, but because it is a long one. Let's be real. I'm not a kid anymore. It is a long story. I'll try and give the short version of it. When I was a kid, I was one of those kids that I had to know how every single thing on the planet worked. I was just a naturally curious kid. So, in my early years, things like clocks and thermostats, they would become my victims because early on I was really good at taking things apart, but not necessarily putting them back together again. That took a little practice, and it didn't matter. Anything mechanical, electrical, it was coming apart if I got my hands on it. As I went through life, becoming a teenager, I discovered the world of electronics, and to me that was even more exciting than mechanics, and that's the direction that I went in for quite a few years. I had a very interesting career in the world of electronics. And then at a certain point during a recession, I wound up looking for employment, and in my previous profession, I was just not employable. I was overpaid, underqualified, and just not employable. So I fell back on what used to be my hobby. I should have mentioned that through my years of electronics, I kept restoring cars, fixing my own things. I never left the mechanical side alone. I was always involved. And I was able to take that hobby and turn it into a second career. I'm fortunate. I consider myself blessed that I was born with good hands and a decent brain. So I was able to fall back on this, and I didn't want to do it half measures. So just like Jared, I've got my master service technician certifications. We're both certified by every major engine manufacturer, mower manufacturer, and I feel like I'm doing it right, and this is a great second opportunity for me in my life. And now here we are doing a podcast, which is something I never thought that would be part of my day-to-day activities, but this is great. So with that, I'm going to give you back to Jared.
Right on, man. I'm so excited to be doing this. That was a phenomenal story, and great intro to you and who you are. I think as this thing goes on and you get to learn even a little bit more about me and a little bit more about Jeff, I think there's a lot that we're both going to be able to bring to the table, and I look forward to that day that we're able to bring some additional people in and take some feedback from other people and answer some questions and really expand that knowledge base for everybody listening. So you kind of got a little bit of a basic intro, I guess, into who we are and what we do, at least from the 10,000 feet level. My intent here isn't to dig too deep into LKN small engine and into the business that I own. The idea here really is to provide a podcast that is going to provide some valuable information for everybody listening. Whether you live here in North Carolina where we're at, or you live out in Washington or Wisconsin, or anywhere else across the world, I hope that we're able to bring a little bit of value to you. And we'll I'm sure reference maybe some specific local things from time to time, but we're going to try to keep the topics kind of broad. So with that said, what I had on the agenda for today to talk about was why you should buy local. I think one of the most
Good topic, Jared.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the most things that we see on a regular basis are those customers that come in and, they're either looking at equipment and they want to know, well, why should I buy it from you? Why shouldn't I go down the street and buy it from Lowe's where, of course, I can get it for a better price? Or on the flip side, you get those people that come in and, need some service on their equipment. And lo and behold, it didn't come from here. It came from Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart or one of those other big box stores out there. And it just doesn't seem to click, the reason why that's not always the best idea. So, Jeff and I were talking about this a little bit the other day, and he came up with a pretty cool scenario that he put together. And so we're gonna go through it a little bit. I'm gonna let Jeff read the backstory to you, and then we're gonna dialogue and kind of flow back and forth here a little bit and talk about this. And I think it's a pretty good representation of what we see on a regular basis, and hopefully it'll be enlightening to some people.
Okay, as Jared said, yes, this is something we do see on a regular basis. And in terms of big box stores, when we have an entire podcast we can dedicate to my feelings on them, we'll do that at a later date.
That one might get a little bit heated.
That one we might have to use the 26 decibel pad on the microphone. I might just get a little bit loud on it.
We're going to try to keep this podcast as little and the least controversial as possible. We'll suck them in first, and then we'll pull out all the crazy stuff.
Okay, that works for me.
There we go.
Yeah, that works for me. So here's the backstory or the scenario. What we're going to deal with here is we have two customers. We have customer A and customer B, and they both bought the same piece of equipment at the same time, except customer A bought his at a dealership, and customer B bought his, he just drove right past the dealership, he bought his at the big box store. All right, so now a few weeks later, they both have problems with it hard starting and running rough on both the units, both customers. So customer A brings his back to the dealer for a warranty repair. Customer B now goes to the same dealer for a warranty repair since the big box store can't do anything for him. All he did was buy it there. By an amazing coincidence, they arrive at the dealer at the same time, and customer B, the one who bought it from the big box, is online right behind customer A, who bought the machine here at the dealership. All right, so we're going to go into our dialogue here between our dealership and Mr. Customer A and Mr. Customer B. And Jared here, he's going to be the dealership since he owns the place. I figure he's entitled to play the part of the dealership. And I'm going to be Customer A, and my alter ego is going to be Customer B.
You are
Okay.
multi-talented.
I am. I can multitask.
All right, here we go. Hello, Mr. Customer A. How can I help you today?
Hello, Mr. Dealer. It's nice to see you again. My machine is hard to start, and it doesn't seem to be running quite right.
All right, Mr. Customer A. We'll take care of this right away. If it's an adjustment, you can probably get it back tomorrow, maybe the day after. We're pretty slammed right now back in the shop.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dealer. I'll just go home and wait for your call. Now, at this point, Customer B steps up to the counter after hearing this conversation with the two people in front of him.
Hello, Mr. Customer B. How can I help you?
I bought this down the road at Big Box a couple of weeks ago. Now it's really hard to start, and it just doesn't want to run right. After I drove all the way there, they told me I had to come here to get it fixed.
Oh, man, I can understand that. That can be a bit of a problem. So let's take a look at your machine. All right, this machine looks pretty beat up for being just a couple weeks old. Are you sure it's big enough for the property that you have?
I don't know. The guy from the wallpaper department helped me pick it out. He said it'd probably be all right.
I see. Are you sure that you're using the right fuel in it?
I don't know. Nobody told me what kind of gas to put in it.
Well, all right. Are you following the starting procedure?
What's that? I wasn't told how to start it. They just sold it to me.
All right, sir. Well, let me get you checked in here. It is the height of our busy season right now, so we're looking at an average turnaround time of about 10 to 15 business days.
What? You just told the guy in front of me he might get his back tomorrow, and why are you asking me all these silly questions? You didn't ask the guy in front of me anything.
Well, all right. So, you see, sir, he purchased his machine here. So, since he supported us, we're going to support him by fitting his repair into the schedule as soon as possible. I know it's the right size machine for his property because I helped him pick it out based on his needs that he explained to me. I also know that he's using the correct fuel because when I sold him the equipment, he bought 3 cans of fuel that go in that equipment from me. And, the cool thing about that is when he did that, it actually extended his warranty by an extra few years as well.
Wait a minute. What? Double the warranty? How come I didn't know about that?
Oh, man, I don't know. Perhaps the wallpaper department didn't get the memo on power equipment warranties. Well, I'm also pretty sure he's starting it correctly, because when I went over the starting procedure with him before he left the store and had him do it in front of me, he was pretty competent.
Well, this sucks. I guess I should have just bought it here in the first place. Who knew there's so many advantages to purchasing from an authorized dealer? Now I'm stuck and I can't work outside for 10 to 15 business days. What am I supposed to do?
And that, my friends, is a standard scenario, especially in the middle of summer during peak season.
It is, Jared.
So, let's just chat a little bit on that. Obviously, the reason I started my business was because I was looking for an opportunity to help the people in my community. And I'm very confident that, as a group, we've all been able to do that. I think we provide an awesome service to the people in our community. One of the things that I think some of those people may in time forget is while we are here to provide a service and to help them out any way that we can, we also all have to make a living. And, we obviously value those people that take the extra time and, spend the extra time here with us and give us the opportunity not only to repair their equipment, but they patronize us when it's time to buy a piece of equipment and make that high dollar initial purchase.
Well, that's a real good point, Jared. And I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine here for a second. We need that harp music like they used to have in the sitcoms when they do the flashback.
There you go.
But my flashback is, I know this is ancient history, but, when I was a boy, a really big treat for me was going to either the hardware store or the lumber yard with my dad. And this is the places that you went to buy what you needed for your house. If you needed hardware, you went to the hardware store. And it was the coolest store for a kid. I mean, I can remember the squeaky floorboards, the smell of the place, the guy that worked there for at least 150 years with his apron on. And and these were people that were, "Well, okay, what do you need? You need this kind of screw. Okay, you need a left-handed monkey wrench. I got one right here. I'll help you out. I'll get you going." And now we have these big box monuments to mass purchasing. That yeah, I mean, who are you supporting when you go to these big box stores? When I was going to the hardware store with my dad, we knew the people that owned that store. They lived in our town. If you needed something the hardware store didn't have, you went to the appliance store. The guy that owned the appliance store, his son was in my class at school. You knew these people. This is your neighborhood. And granted, there are people working at the big box stores that live in the neighborhood, but the majority of the money is not going to them. It's going to somebody that, or some shareholder that owns a piece of this store very far away from your hometown. I can pretty much guarantee that. So yeah, Jared brings up an excellent point about supporting the local community by supporting your local businesses. And I'm glad to see that the pendulum seems to be, these days anyway, swinging back in that direction.
I think it really is. I can't complain at all about our local community here. I think they do a phenomenal job. Now, granted, there's obviously, every place has a few, but I think for the most part, the people around our area at least stay pretty focused on trying to keep it local when they can. I think one of the biggest objections that I face or that I hear is people think that they can go down the street to that local big box store and they can buy, the same mower brand that we may carry here in that big box store. And because they're buying it from that big box store, they think that they're going to pay less for that piece of equipment. And there's two ways to look at that, I think. Firsthand, most of these manufacturers out there have set MSRPs. Their pricing is all set at a corporate level. So I'm not selling that piece of equipment for any more money than that big box store is selling it for down the road. Now, that big box store may have a whole lot more profit margin on the back end because they're able to buy in much higher volume than what I can buy in. But they're not going to sacrifice that profit margin on the sale. So they're selling at the exact same MSRP you're going to buy it from your local dealer at, probably 9 times out of 10.
Well, not only that, Jared. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it also occurs to me that the big box stores are also kind of relying on uneducated consumers. In the respect that, yes, they can go down the street and they can buy the same brand mower that we sell here, the same size riding tractor, for instance, riding mower. What the customer, unless they've done research on their own, what they don't realize is they're getting it at such a much better price at the big box store because it has a stamped sheet metal deck instead of a fabricated thick steel deck that's lifetime guaranteed. It has the lower quality engine rather than the higher quality, higher output engine. It's got the lower quality seat rather than the more comfortable seat. And unless you've done your homework, Mr. Average Consumer just doesn't realize that and thinks he's getting this wonderful bargain that just doesn't get the job done for them, and then they bring it here to get it fixed.
Well, that's right. And then when they come here, they're extremely upset because that mower is a piece of crap because it doesn't do what they need it to do.
I wasn't going to phrase it quite that way,
but
well, okay,
no,
have at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens, right? And it's it really is all about that experience level that you're going to see, not only from the customer service standpoint, but again, when you walk in that door at a dealership, those people that are on that dealership floor have been through countless hours of training with the manufacturers. They've had countless hours of experience from hands-on time they've spent with that equipment, and it's in their best interest to make sure that as a customer you end up with the piece of equipment that's best suited for you. I can't tell you how many times somebody walks into the front door and says, "Oh man, I'm looking for a new zero turn. What's the cheapest zero turn you got?" And we may walk over and take a look at that zero turn that's, I don't know, $27.99 or whatever it may be. And then, the first question that I'm going to ask them is, Well, Mr. Customer, tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing with this zero turn. What's your property look like? Oh, it's only about 5 acres, and it's kind of hilly, and it's got some bumps, and but I'm sure this 27.99 42-inch cut, little zero turn is going to be just fine. It's the exact right price. That's what I need. And we'll have that conversation as a dealer and let them know, hey, I understand this is where you want to be price point wise, but at the same time, I can guarantee you that you're going to be back in a year and you're going to be highly unhappy, because to cut what you're looking to cut at 5 acres with, some bumpy terrain and some hills, we need to get you into a much larger piece of equipment that's suited for that kind of work. Now, on the flip side, you walk into a big box store and you say, "Hey Joe, over in the wallpaper department, I need to buy that mower right there. That's $27.99." And he's going to happily write you up for that mower that's $27.99. Then he's going to sell you the service plan that's contracted out through a separate warranty provider
that we usually provide the service for.
Oh, that's right. That is going to end up coming to me to fix for him. So he's going to sell you that so he can make some commission on that. And then he's going to ship you out the front door and never hear from you again, because when something isn't working right and you call them up, they're going to tell you to call me anyway. It's a multifaceted thing that you have to look at. And while it may be the path of least resistance to go walk into that big box store to buy your mower or buy your trimmer or whatever other piece of equipment you're looking at, you got to look at it as an investment. And you wouldn't invest that amount of money, I would hope, into a piece of equipment that isn't going to be what you need. And when you look at it that way, you want to invest with not only somebody local that's going to take care of you, not only at the point of sale, but after the point of sale, but that also has the knowledge and experience to make sure that you get into the piece of equipment that is going to be well suited for what you're doing with it, I would hope.
Well, let me ask you this, Jared. Speaking of being a happy, satisfied customer, and sorry, lost my whole train. So anyway, Jared, well, what about customer loyalty programs at these big box stores? What kind of loyalty programs do they have?
Well, they have a phenomenal loyalty program. They have the loyalty program of, as soon as you get that sale rung up and swipe your credit card, you are now a loyal customer, and they will loyally make sure that you get billed every month based on your financing program that you signed with them.
I understand. And what type of loyalty programs do businesses like ours have?
Well, that's a very good question, El Jefe. You will soon come to know that Jeff's nickname is El Jefe. We'll probably get into that one of these days.
El Jefe is my alter ego, yes.
Yes. So legitimately, you'll find that, when you buy from a big box store, again, you're a number, you're a transaction for them. You are one of the many, and you have no real value to those individuals in that store. I mean, I'm sure they're all great people. They all, appreciate your business. But, again, the community aspect isn't there. The cool thing about buying from a dealer, I don't know any dealers out there that don't offer some type of a loyalty program for those people that buy from them. If I speak specifically to my dealership, I can tell you that here, when you buy a piece of equipment from us, you become a part of, wait for it, TheMowerMafia. Yes. And what that means is that there's a whole bunch of perks that you get for doing that. When you, as we saw in the role play that we did a minute ago, when you come into the store and you tell me that, you need service on your piece of equipment, guess what? You jump to the top of the line. You get priority over all those people that didn't buy it here. You took the time to support us and support a local business, so we're going to support you in the best way that we can. You're also going to see some savings usually on your service work. For me, I offer a discount off of my posted shop labor rate if you bought your equipment here versus it comes in from outside. You save a little bit on your parts sales if you bought your equipment here versus buying it from outside of here. There's numerous things that we're usually able to work out. Obviously, you get an inside track. So, as we're running sales and different manufacturers, promotions, that stuff goes out to our Mower Mafia members first. They get first dibs at that stuff before that goes out to the general public. Like I said, we're going to take care of those people that support us well before we take care of anybody that brings in their stuff after they've supported somebody else.
Well, I think the theme here is the community supporting the community. It's really what it comes down to. Um, if somebody has a bad experience at the Lowe's down the street and they tell their friends and neighbors about it, yeah, I had this horrible experience there, and their reaction is going to be, oh yeah, well, what do you expect? It's Lowe's, or what do you expect? It's Home Depot, can't ask for much. If somebody leaves our shop and complains to their friends and neighbors about a bad experience, well, then that's going to be terrible for us. That's devastating for us. Uh, Big box, they're never going to feel the difference. We are. So that's one way that we support the community is by keeping everybody so happy that they have nothing but nice things to say about us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I'm going to try not to go off on a tangent because that's one of my soapboxes that I like to get up on and chat about. Is what I think we're going to do another podcast here that talks a little bit about what you should expect when you walk into a dealership, especially from the service department. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of preconceived notions that maybe come from different industries and that do not translate over into this industry. I run into a lot of people that have frustrations that are just really honestly unwarranted and not realistic. But I will tell you, while we're talking about that and, about supporting the local businesses and about how much it means to every dealership to have your support, as nicely as I can say it, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy that over exaggerate something and that comes in and says, oh man, you've had my lawnmower there for 2 days, my grass is growing, I gotta have it back, in the middle of summer when that dealership has 300 pieces of equipment in for service. Like I said, I could talk on that for a long time. So we'll work.
You can, Jared.
We'll work that into another podcast. But again, remember that the people in these dealerships, they're here to help you. I have never met. I've heard a lot of bad stories. I've heard a lot of bad stuff about other dealers, but I have never met another dealer that deep down was not there trying to help you.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have our shortcomings, for sure. But ultimately, I think you judge dealerships and you judge the people in them based on their intent, right? We all make mistakes. We all make errors. The judgment has to be on the intent. Was it done intentionally? Did they intentionally try to make your life miserable? Did they intentionally try to do you wrong? Or did life happen and, a mistake was made and they tried to make it right for you? Because there's nothing worse than being too quick on the trigger to go out there and start talking bad stuff about people who are really there just trying to help you.
Well, I agree, Jared. I agree. But I think one thing that we have to keep in the front of our minds, though, is that the road to hell was paved with good intentions, and that's how we're judged by the general public. I think we've made a pretty good case here for buying local. We'd like to hear other opinions, other views on the topic. Jared will give the contact information, how you can send questions to our podcast if you like, how you can make contact with us. And Jared also would like to tell us about what's coming up in our next podcast.
Well, I'm going to certainly try. So look, guys, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us here while we kind of chat back and forth a little bit. Obviously, this is our first episode, so I know it's rough. We're going to make it sound as pretty as we possibly can and, try to edit out some of the boo-boos here and there where we can. But like I said, I appreciate your patience. As we continue to do these, I promise you they will get better and better. We will get better and better, and we will try to bring you information that's more and more valuable. One of the things that I still have to do is to actually get this thing physically off of my computer that it's sitting on right now and out into the world where you're actually hearing it. So I'm not sure exactly what that turnaround time is going to be like, but we're going to work on it. Once I do that, we'll make sure inside of the notes for the podcast that we have some contact information in there so you can reach out to us. And if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to see us discuss, you can definitely share that with us, and we'll definitely try to get that worked into our next broadcast here. So, again, thank you so much for taking the time. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you like what you heard, if you got any value out of this podcast, please take a minute, make a comment, share it with somebody. We appreciate your feedback. We need as much feedback as we can get so we can continue to improve. And Jeff, you got anything else to close it out?
Yeah, I would just like to mention that once again, we are sponsored by LKN Small Engine. I like to keep pumping them up because they are providing our luxurious penthouse recording studio here that Jared and I are located in. So since they're paying the freight for that, I feel the need to constantly advertise for them.
He's looking for a raise, but
Yes.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to talking to you soon.